Hi, Bruce Saunderson again. Now this I think is number 5 in the series of Indonesia and what is God doing there. And as I promised on my last video, why Indonesia? So I'm just going to share some of the dreams, some of the visions, some of the things that God has said to me as to why Indonesia. Because everything that he has spoken to me, every vision, every dream, everything has always been Indonesia. And how did God start me there? How did he get me there in the first place? It was very simple. I was fellowshipping at a church down on the Gold Coast, and we had Glendon and Tina Terrace who fellowshiped there. And now Glendon is a Kiwi and Tina is Indonesian. They're married and they're missionaries, and they were actually in Indonesia doing mission work. But they used to fellowship at our church. And the Lord spoke to me one day and he said, Bruce, I want you to go to Indonesia and simply support and encourage Glendon and Tina. So that was how God got me there in the first place. A very simple encouragement and being obedient, because whenever, whenever God speaks, it also, you have to be obedient and do what he says. Now, so that was how he got me there. Now, when I went there, actually, I do feel to share this with you, and Glendon and Tina won't mind. On the Friday before I'm about to leave, I'm leaving on Monday by the plane, and on the Friday, I actually get a phone call from Glendon and Tina. And they actually heard that I was coming over to, and why I was coming over to encourage and support them. And Glendon actually said to me, he said, Bruce, if that's the reason you're coming over, don't bother coming over. We don't need encouragement. We don't need support. And I went, well, I'm coming. And with that, I simply hung up. And I've just gone, wow, what do I do now, Lord? So I shared that with Glendon and Tina's parents, or Glendon's parents actually, because I fellowshipped at the church with them, shared it with my wife at the time. And they all said, what are you going to do? I said, well, God told me to go. I'm going. So I simply went. They said, who's picking you up at the airport? I said, I have no idea. I have no idea. All I know is God said to go. He told me why I'm going. They've said they don't want me there. They don't need me there. I'm going. So I simply got on the plane and praise God. Glendon and Tina are at the airport to pick me up. So that was great news. So that's how God got me there. Now, there's been numerous things that have happened since. I spent a lot of time with Glendon and Tina. We had some marvellous times together. Done some painting for them in the units they were staying in, etc. Travelled around with them. And the Lord actually used Glendon and Tina to open up the door to other areas for me. They introduced me to Pastor up in Brostagi, Pastor Ezra and Daniel, who had just built a 4-story children's home, which was an extension to the church. And I'm a painter by trade, and I just looked at it and I started laughing. And I just said, Lord, you want me to paint this, don't you? This is Indonesia. And I was laughing on the inside. And I went, wow. Anyway, I didn't share that with anyone at the time. And then they introduced me to a pastor in Medan, David Maripan, and his church needed painted. And David actually said to me, he said, I'm going to fast and pray that God will send you back to paint my church. And I just went, I was laughing, absolutely laughing on the inside, saying, Lord, what are you doing to me? I thought I was here to encourage Glendon and Tina. So anyway, I came home after having a marvellous time with Glendon and Tina, on numerous trips, by the way, with them. But I came home and I said, okay, Lord, if this is you, I'm going to ask one paint company to sponsor me with some paint for Indonesia. If they sponsor me and supply me some paint, fine, I'll go. So I went to Resine, and guess what? They sponsored me with 200 litres of blue paint, and then gave me all the rest of the paint at a greatly reduced price. And I just went, oh, now what do I do? So now I'm stuck with all this paint, with all these tools, and I'm going, I'm in Australia, this is in Indonesia. How do I do this, Lord? So he led me through. So we exported 3 pallets of paint, tools and equipment to Indonesia. That's how it started. And then every dream, every vision he was showing me. I remember in one of the visions, he actually showed me pushing a wheelbarrow full of concrete and loading it into a foundation for a house. So when he sent me over, Bruce, foundations, lay the foundations, relationship. You are there to serve. That's all I want you to do. If you remember, I shared with you what God told me when he sent me over there. Bruce, this is my plan. I will tell you what to do, when to do it, how to do it, where to do it, and who with. I have not altered from that. I do not go with any plan of my own except to be obedient to God, to everything that he shows me, when, where, how, who, etc. So anyway, we get all this paint over there. And that's how it all started. Now, there's also another dream or / vision that I feel to share with you because it coincides or relates to exactly what we're talking about. Because to paint, you need a group of people. To minister, you need a group of people. To do a mission trip, you need a group of people. So after a few years, the Lord actually showed me. And he showed me in this dream, I was in Indonesia with Glendon and Tina. And what happened was people started coming, were being lifted up off the ground. And I just went, woohoo, good, the Lord's coming back. We're going up in the air to meet him. And then in the next part of it, I was back in Australia with a person here. And the same thing was happening, where people were simply going up off the ground, and I'm just going, whoa, this is great news. We're all going up to meet the Lord. And then I seen him place everyone, and including myself, because then I started being lifted up off the ground. And I felt this excitement. And then I got put down in Indonesia with all these other people from Indonesia and from Australia. And I remember feeling it. I felt disappointed because I wasn't with the Lord. And what he showed me was this huge, big facade. It was like a shop front, but absolutely huge. And then in behind all of that was just hundreds of concrete slabs that were laid. And I just said, Lord, what the heck do you mean? He said, I am the facade. I am in Indonesia. All of the foundations are laid. It's time to start building the houses. And it was from that moment that the Lord started opening up all of the pulpits to me. That was from then that he started allowing me to, or using me to share the word, to minister to people. Every door was open to me for ministry in-house, deliverance, signs, wonders, miracles. As we go through some of these videos, I'll share some of the signs and the wonders and the miracles that God has done there. One that I just feel to share at the moment was a dear sister. She'd been trying to have a baby for a number of years and couldn't have a baby. And this was when I was in Baligi, and we went out to a church to have a look to prepare for the next trip for painting. And the pastor said, oh, we need to call in and see a sister here. She's about to die. They've sent her home from the hospital. There's nothing they can do for her. And I remember when we walked in, the Spirit just took over, and I'm just on my knees beside her, and the Lord is just ministering and asking her questions. And of course, Marvin, my translator's there, and just translating everything. And it turned out that she'd been trying to have a baby for a number of years and couldn't fall pregnant. And so she said, if I can't have a baby, that's it, I don't want to live. So she drank acid. Now the acid destroyed her throat and her stomach, and there was nothing the doctors could do. So we prayed for her. The Lord ministered to her, asked her a number of questions, took her through some repentance, and then left, went back to the church, that night the Lord started talking to me about her again. And so we had to go back the next day to go through some more teaching and repentance. And what happened was, I think it was about 3 weeks later, that dear sister was back in her village with a new stomach and new throat, healed. So that's just one of many, many miracles that the Lord has done. And as we go through, I'll share some more. But I'd just like to share some of the things that I've done in the natural. And it's because of what I've done in the natural. Okay. Yes, Lord, I will, thank you. The Lord's just told me to share something with you, which will explain what I'm about to do now. And that is, I was fellowshipping at a particular church. And for the first about 15 trips, no one encouraged me, supported me, done anything for me. Didn't even pray for me. So it was no support from the church. I was simply being obedient to what God was telling me to do, even though some people were saying and giving me their opinion of what I should be doing. And I just said, Lord, I want to be obedient to you. So the Lord showed me this particular night where I was fellowshipping. He showed me inside a house. And I was just wiping down all the tables, cleaning all the floors, and just cleaning the inside of the house. And this particular pastor where I was fellowshipping at the time was standing in the corner with his arms folded watching me. And I've just gone, Lord, what do you mean? The pastor's not going to help you. I have him doing other stuff. This is for you. You are to be doing this. I will provide the workers when it's time, which is what I shared with you before in that other vision that he gave me. He's giving me the workers from Indonesia and from Australia for what he wants to do there. So that's the reason I shared that, was to say this. What the Lord then said to me was this: Bruce, while you are in the natural, cleaning the natural houses being the churches, the buildings, etc., I am with you in the supernatural, cleaning the supernatural houses, the spiritual houses. Who are the spiritual houses? We are. So while I'm working in the natural, God is with me in the supernatural. So I just want to share some of the things that the Lord's had me do, because in all of that, in all of these things that I've done in the natural, God has been there in the supernatural, cleaning the spiritual houses. And as we go through the series of videos with the different trips, I'll share more of those signs, wonders, and miracles that God has done. So I'll just go through some of the things that we've done there. In Brastagi, we've painted inside and out a 4-story children's home for Pastor Ezra and Pastor Daniel. In Medan for Pastor David Murraypan, almost completed the outside of his church. For Glendon and Tina, up in Sumbul, they have a children's preschool and 4 3-bedroom units for ministry. Finished the hall, almost finished the 4 3-bedroom units. A new church in Sumbul completed, painted inside and out for Pastor Malau. A new church in City Kallang, painted inside and out for Pastor Ramli Tumba. New church in Baligi, painted inside and out for Pastor Siantori. Existing church in Sarabai Jawa, painted inside and out for Pastor Pakbahan. An existing church completed inside and out, and a 3-bedroom home for Pastor Owalan. Worked with Pastor Ziggy from another nation in rehabilitation centres for mentally disturbed and drug abuse. Took some of them out on projects with us. Took Rago and Pia out and taught them how to use a pressure cleaner. The last I heard, both Rago and Pia, in conjunction with their church, was actually running a pressure cleaning business. Still ongoing church and all outbuildings. I've painted the outside of the church, the living area, the kitchen, and other outbuildings in Baligi for Pastor Yos and Ellie. Ministered for a short time, and actually financially supported for a very short time a youth group in Sabolga with Pastor Jenny. an existing church at Sienta for Pastor Perry. Painted most of the outside, still ongoing. An existing church inside and out for Pastor Pakbahan near Sienta, inside and out. An existing church in Segol, which is the last one that you've just seen, for Pastor Prayoga. That's just in the natural, the buildings that we've painted. During all of that time, the Lord has also had taking second-hand clothes over there. And there's a story with the second-hand clothing, because now I have to work with the Indonesian consulate in Canberra. Because what happened there, I was sending all of these boxes of clothes over there. And then every trip I went on, I'd take a box with me. Then I got caught at, it was actually a funny story. I got caught in Bali. They asked me what's in the box, and I told them clothes for local people. And apparently I was breaking the law. So the Lord allowed it for a short time, but then pulled me up on it. And what was happening, you actually need to get a gift certificate to be able to bring the clothing in. And what the custom said was, we confiscate these now and we burn them. And I went, really? So I said, look, I'm a Christian. This is what it's all about. So the guy brought out the boss from the customs, the head man, and we explained to him what was happening. And they gave me the information that I needed to do back here in Australia to get the gift certificate. And they said, normally we always take this, but this one time we're going to allow you. You can keep the box of clothing, but in the future, this is what you need to do. So now I need to work with the Indonesian consulate down in Canberra to continue that. We've sent wedding dresses, suits and evening gowns over there to start a part-time business. We bought a motorcycle there for a business. It's actually for Marvin. It's called Grab. It's what we call in Australia Uber. So that's just some of the things that what's happening there. But why Indonesia? Very simple. God chose Indonesia, and He chose me for Indonesia. I got no idea why He chose me, except the fact that I said yes and I'll be obedient. But as I said, every dream, every vision, and I'll share many more dreams, visions, and words that the Lord has spoken to me as we go through some of the ongoing videos of the different trips. I'll share some more of all the things that the Lord is doing, what He has done. But that's where we're at now. Now, where are we now? We're now in Medan. We have a youth group at Pastor, what's his name? Ronnie. Joshua. Forgive me, Joshua. Pastor Joshua in Medan. And we also have another gentleman there. Oh, goodness me. Never mind. But anyway, he has a group there where we're working with, and that's where Marvin lives in Medan as well. So there's a whole base there. In Segol, Pastor Prayoga. And I'll share a prophetic vision that the Lord gave me about Segol, on another video. In Perenganan, I think, and sorry, there's 4 schools in the Segol area as well. In Perenganan, Pastor Pakbahan, I think it's about 14 schools there. But as I shared before on a previous video, God has chosen 5. As I said, I actually felt like Gideon at the time, where there's 14 schools, and God said to invite all the headmasters to that meal that we're having to build the relationship. And by the way, all of them said yes, and that's why we booked the 36 meals. But anyway, so there's a base there that the Lord's working with. There's another base in Sumbul and City Cullen, which I haven't spoken about yet, which is with another pastor, which I'll go into, which is actually Pastor Ramli Tumba. And there's 2 schools there, and there's youth groups there, and there's children's church there, all of them. That's the basis where we're at now. So anyway, I'll see you on the next video. Until then, God bless and goodbye.